My dad and I were supposed to go to the Cubs-Phillies game on Tuesday night. Find out if we're still going to go next.
You are Locked On Cubs, your daily Chicago Cubs podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Cubs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, alongside Sam Olber. I'm Matt Cozy. Sam and I are lifelong fans, taking our passion into discussion with you on all things Cubs. Thank you for being part of the show and making us your first listen today. And the best way you can help us grow the show is to listen every day, like the video, and comment anything below. Today's episode is presented by our great partners at Tax Network USA. Did you know that it's never too late to resolve your tax issues with the IRS? Don't wait. Reduce your tax debt and get help from a team of licensed tax pros by calling 1-800-549-1000 or visiting tnusa.com/lockedon. The Cubs lost 2 out of 3 to the Brewers over the weekend and are now 39-46 overall and 22-37 since April 27th. They are 11.5 games out of first place in the NL Central and 5 games out of the third wild card spot with 7 teams in front of them. Cubs lost 4-2 Friday, won 5-3 Saturday, and lost 7-1 Sunday. I thought there was a glimmer of hope, perhaps, after Justin Steele and Ian Happ both had clutch performances and emotional displays Saturday for a win. We're going to get into all those human factors later in the show. But Sam, it really was mostly more of the same this weekend in Milwaukee as the L train chugs on.
I'm only smiling because I can't cry.
Exactly.
There's so many places for me to start, Matt. There's so many paths for me to go. There's so many different ways I could describe it. No matter what I do, I'm going to be called the pessimistic guy. I'm going to be called the negative guy, despite the fact that this has been a dumpster fire and that any positive spin would be disingenuous. So I'll start with this. I'll start with somebody else's perspective. On Sunday night, my father called me.
Great.
He called me. And this is how he opened the call, pretty close to verbatim. Sam, did you buy tickets for Tuesday night? About a couple of weeks ago, we discussed going to Tuesday night's game because it's a slow week for me, slow week for him. And it was just, we like to go to at least a game a year together. So he said, hey, did you buy tickets for Tuesday night yet? And I said, no. He said, don't. It's against my moral principles, my competitive spirit, and my pride to spend my money and, most importantly, my time on this pathetic group of players. And then he went farther and he said, if you'd like to come over on Tuesday night, you can. But if you have to watch the game for your show, make sure it's on your phone and make sure it's on mute. That's what my dad said. He also then went on a rant about how annoyed he is when the Cubs are losing and are bad, when the players do like a celebration after a hit on base, but I'm not going to go there. He asked me to actually mention it on the show. I'm not going to do it because there were some curse words in there. But yeah, so I think that's a good explanation. As far as I go, Matt, this series came down to clutch moments. The Brewers are clutch. The Cubs aren't. When you look at the Cubs offensively, it's so easy to see why they're so inept. 1 through 5 has been below expectations, but not terrible, right? Horner's been a little bit below. Bush has been way above expectations, or at least above, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Bellinger's been below, especially in the slug department. Seiya slightly below, or maybe significantly below, but not awful. And then Happ has been kind of OPS wise right where you need him to be. But none of these guys are stars. None of them are having wonderful campaigns. So when you combine that with 6 through 9, Morel, absolutely awful, both sides of the ball. Dansby Swanson, inept offensively. PCA, not ready to hit in the show. And whoever's catching basically is the pitcher. We've gone back to the pitching rules. If you're not gonna have a star, you can't have automatic outs. If you're gonna have automatic outs, you better have a star. If you watched Hannah Montana growing up, you get the best of both worlds. This is the worst of both worlds offensively. You don't have a star, and you have plenty of automatic outs in your lineup. Combine that with an atrocious bullpen, a poor defense, a team that has no base running and core leadership until Justin Steele finally have seen enough. You're lucky that you're only 7 games under 500. It is a group that absolutely is horrendous.
Wow. Well, that was a great opening 5 minutes right there.
And that's
from
not a
Sam.
rant, by the way. That's
No.
just speaking the truth.
Which hit with runners in scoring position was your favorite? Give us a call. There was 3 of them. They were 3 for 22.
Will Cody Bellinger ever hit another home run? You could reach us at 312.
1-2. No, but seriously, everyone likes to get on Amaya, now Nito, Wisdom, Mastro, shoot, even PCA. But like you said, Sam, it's Horner, Swanson, Morel, and Bellinger for sure.
Yeah.
Hap has been good the last couple weeks.
Oh, yeah. Suzuki and Hap have been
Suzuki has had his moments. Even though he took a called third strike Sunday, literally was in the middle box in StatCast.
Which catcher's interference was your favorite? Give us a 312.
And everybody,
go ahead.
Oh, I realized Sunday because I think I know that wasn't a rant the first 5 minutes, but you did go in hard on Morel.
Yeah.
And I got to say, it really is earned. I didn't know his slug was down 150 points. He has 15 homers.
Yeah. But you have to still
get his slug is down 150 points. Folks, enough talking about his walk rate, enough talking about Bellinger's 2-strike approach. It's done. That was like a May thing. They've been bad now over 2 months. Remember, and I sneak this date in probably more than I should at this point, but I'm going to remind everybody. April 27, that's over 2 months ago. It really did start Friday. It was a foreshadowing moment because the Cubs got off to a nice start, and Jamison Tyone in the 4th inning, it looked like he was doing fine. So what? He gives up a 1-out walk. Then there's a fly ball to right. There's 2 outs, man on first. Okay, no problem. And then a catcher's interference and an infield single keeps the inning going. But Tyone gets 0-2 to Jackson Chourio. And it gets to 1-2. Chourio crushes a hanging slider for a grand slam. And with the 2024 Cubs, a grand slam in the 4th, that puts you up 2 runs. That puts the game away.
Game over.
Saturday tugged at my emotions more than I thought it would after what Steele did walking off the field after the 3rd inning, Sam.
Yes, it felt good because it was somebody finally echoing. It was like somebody finally echoed what we all were thinking.
It did, and we're going to speak a lot on this second segment. When Hap hits another clutch hit and a home run, no less, they're able to escape there with a win.
And then Sunday they got their rear ends kicked.
They got killed. Kendricks got hammered on Sunday before you could even think about, not even to get hyperbolic and go to the turning point thing yet, but it's like, I just want something I can take away that is positive. And against a team up the street, could they win a series? It is a rubber game after all.
No.
But this team could they can't do it.
Well, on the phone with you before the game, I told you I wasn't going to be watching much of it at all, and I expected it to be about a 7-run deficit.
Well, you were right.
Every squirrel, occasionally finds a nut, but Matt, the best way I could describe the series, I watched 5 innings of it. I watched the condensed games, but I watched 5 innings of it. I mean, it's the sequence where Chourio hit the grand slam was so Brewers Cubs.
Yeah.
Tyone leaves should have left his mitt out there. Should have touched that ball. Would have been an out. Catcher's interference for the 3rd time, 2 of the 3 times. It's cost the Cubs a game. There's no repercussions for that. No responsibility. No accountability for Miguel Amaya, who is really turning in one of the worst Cubs seasons I've ever seen. Really. I mean, he is awful.
Absolutely.
And then Saturday, of course, you get excited when you see a pitcher and a leader, get on the team. And then the team responded. Whether that's that's a direct result of what Steele said, who cares? We've been waiting for emotion. We've been waiting for the acknowledgement that this isn't good enough, and they won. And then Sunday they just came out, and maybe that emotion from Steele, maybe we'll see a little bit of it in the Philly series. And Freddie Peralta is just a really good pitcher, but I mean, it was lifeless. And the way that inning started, I wasn't watching live, but if I was, once I saw Contreras get the leadoff single, there was a little tapper to third base. Yep. That's just how it goes with Kyle. And 2-run homer to Yelich. Happ misjudges a fly ball. It's almost like for Tuesday night's affair, I'm going to make a bingo card. Defensive mishap, catcher's interference, strikeouts in the clutch, pop-outs in the clutch, line-outs in the clutch, bullpen meltdown, bullpen leadoff walk, bullpen
2-out walk.
Yeah, stolen bases. You might as well just have some fun. Boog
sounds like a good
Boog
time.
and JD just go, Boog doing this, that. I was like, man, you ever notice that? Man, can't believe that. I mean, it has gotten really bad. Man.
You can't believe it. It's been like 60 games.
This is when you consider these factors, expectations, watchability, the way you win, the way you lose. This is one of the worst teams I've ever seen in this city. Those 4 factors. Not, of course, from a pure talents point, they're better than a lot of teams. But when you consider the expectations, how they win games, how they lose games, the entertainment level, it is through what have they played? 85 games now? 84? Whatever it is as bad as
85.
I've ever seen it. And, you could just go anywhere. You could talk about the offense for a week. You could talk about the bullpen for 2 weeks. They signed a guy, Vinny Natoli. He never pitched. He's off the team.
He was on the team like 12 hours.
The defense is bad. We've gone 12 minutes in. We didn't even mention on Friday night, $30 million Cody Bellinger. Didn't know how many outs there were.
Well, that was a horrible blunder.
No accountability. Counsel just said after he made a mistake. Thanks. Wow. Let me put that on a billboard. Quote, he made a mistake, end quote. $40 million for he made a mistake? How about you show a little accountability and sit him, and after the game come out and say, hey, we're playing really bad baseball right now. And you know what? The physical mistakes and things like that, those are out of control. They're frustrating, but they're out of control. But when you're playing really bad baseball and one of our best guys and top paid guys doesn't know how many outs there are, as the manager of this team, it's unacceptable, and he needs to sit until he figures it out. Why is that never a thing? It's just, we didn't hit enough today. You're not going to win many games with 2 hits. Well, thanks.
Captain Obvious. Yeah.
Thank you for that. So let me, as you would say, give me a, hey, pen. Let me write that down. Not going to win many games with 2 hits. Got it.
Well, Counsel said something to me as a coach.
You guys spoke?
Well, no, I guess maybe I didn't
have him on the show.
Well, I got him right here, actually. Craig, what did you think of Bellinger's base running blunder on the Saturday afternoon, Friday night's ball game? That was an exclusive interview right there. Craig, what did Miguel Amaya with really might say pivotal catcher's interference on Friday night prior to the Churio grand slam. Any indications on why Amaya is having trouble catching the ball, considering he's a catcher this season?
Craig, I would just like to ask, for most of the year, batting 4th and playing third base has been Christopher Morel. He's hitting under 200. He's the worst offensive third baseman in baseball. Any thoughts to change that situation? Got it. All right.
He said something pregame Saturday that was absolutely maddening, and Steele, of all people, I guess not a surprise, did show some fire and passion on Saturday, and we're going to break that down and why those types of things do matter or don't for this team coming up next.
This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 fantasy sports app. It is the easiest and most exciting way to get in on the action while you watch your favorite sports and players. Pick more or less on 2 or more player stats and then watch the winnings roll in. Baseball season has been underway. Don't miss your chance to add your favorite players from the diamond in your Prize Picks entries. Whether it's strikeouts, the Cubs had about maybe 40 of those this weekend. RBIs or first inning runs, take your pick of more or less and add them to your Prize Picks entry. Prize Picks is really simple to play with your entries taking less than 60 seconds to submit. Less than 60 seconds. Some Cub innings were like that on Sunday afternoon, turning $10 into $1,000 with just a few taps of your screen. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. That's a first deposit match up to $100 by using code LOCKEDONMLB. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. With Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app.
Today's episode is also brought to you by Tax Network USA. Here on Locked On Cubs, we pride ourselves on getting you the latest news for your team, whether it's the offseason, the draft, spring training, or the playoffs. It's year-round. You know what else is? Collection season. Just because tax season is over doesn't mean the IRS will stop coming after you for unfiled taxes. The IRS can garnish your wages, levy your bank accounts, and even seize your property. Don't let the IRS target you. Let the licensed pros and tax experts at Tax Network USA go to bat for you. With over 14 years of experience and an A+ rating by the Better Business Bureau, Tax Network USA has saved their clients over $1 billion in tax debt. Whether you owe taxes, have complicated matters that require tax planning, or finally hit that parlay this season and need help correctly filing, call this number, 1-800-549-1000, or visit tnusa.com/lockedon. That's tnusa.com/lockedon. See the link in this episode description below for Tax Network USA. And this segment is brought to you by these types of things: urgency, accountability, passion, and perhaps clutchness. We're going to get to all of those as we discuss the human factors of baseball. Wow, imagine that, which really is the human factors of anything in life when you talk about some of those words there. As we know, the additional problem with the Cubs' struggles the last 2 months has been they show nearly zero emotion about it. Why is that a problem? Well, because it's odd, quite frankly. Everyone has their way of dealing with stuff, but in sports, you would think on a roster with 25 other people, a staff of coaches, trainers, whoever else is in the dugout and clubhouse, you can't measure this human element. And how do we know that these emotions don't have an impact if it never happens? Well, it happened Saturday when Justin Steele walked off the field after the 3rd inning, showing a clear display of frustration after his teammates let him down once again. But Sam, I do think it was a little bit late for that.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting topic because, baseball's a sport where you always hear these type of phrases. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. Hey, you got to take it day by day. Hey, you can't get too high. You can't get too low. And I think all that stuff's fair. But I think what's happened, not just for the Cubs, but I think what's happened really around the league is you've gotten too far the other way. And after a month, for example, after May, right after Memorial Day weekend, and you got beat 3 out of 4 of the Brewers, and I think you're probably about 6, 7 out at that point, whatever it was, there should have been a conversation. Maybe there was, and we don't know about it, where it's like, hey, guys, remember, last May, we were really bad, and we dug ourselves a hole. And it's probably the reason why we didn't make the playoffs, because we had to burn through arms and things like that. We missed the playoffs by 1 game. That kept me up at night most of the offseason, so hopefully it kept them up at night. Let's not make that mistake again. Let's get it going right now. June is our month, right? And it wasn't until almost the last day of June that they finally showed that. And it's like, I get it. These guys, hey, you don't know what it's like to be a big leaguer, whatever, fine. But there's a time and place where urgency is needed. And it was around Memorial Day weekend where I felt that this team really lacked urgency. And it wasn't until 1 month later that they finally showed a public sign of urgency. And to me, that's a reflection of the manager first and foremost, the organization and whatnot. But the Cubs are not a good team by any means. But they all felt in that dugout to begin the season that they were going to win this division. I guarantee you that. And almost to a point where it was probably arrogant. And after the month of May, they needed to have some sort of, hey guys, we need to wake up now. This is like, it's slipping away. Maybe they should watch our show every now and then, or should watch David Kaplan, because we've all been saying it for a while. If you don't get it figured out soon, you're going to lose this. And now you look up and you just blink, and you basically now have to have a 6-0 homestand before you go to Baltimore to even have a life for the third wild card.
Oof.
It even though it's a marathon, it hits really quickly when you do the same thing over and over again, and you blink and you look. Same for an individual player. All right, well, I'm 2 for my last 20. It happens. Okay, now I'm 4 for my last 35. Oh my gosh, I'm 7 for my last 71. Now my season's in trouble. Do you know what I mean? You have to. Good teams, good organizations, and most importantly, good leadership recognizes when it's time to show an extra urgency to minimize a bad stretch. It's no different than an inning. Hey, you know what? We just gave up 3 or 4 here. We're down 4-1. Let's not make it 8-1. Let's still give ourselves a fighting chance. And the Cubs have not been able to limit the damage. They weren't able to do it last September. They weren't able to do it last May, this May, and this June. And I think out of everything that Jed Hoyer has done wrong, as the president of baseball ops, I think the biggest thing that and I'm telling you deep down, I don't think he knows the answer. That's why he keeps weaving around it, is he has neglected clutchness and situations. Because after 2022, the Cubs were a pretty bad clutch team. And he said, hey, we just played too many close games. They're random. Okay. Then after 2023, the Cubs they blew out a ton of teams. They had a run differential in the 90s, and they only won 83 games. And then Jed kind of told you without saying, hey, we think it's a manager thing, and we're going to go get Craig, and he's going to figure it out. And now they're still really bad in the clutch. So they have not figured out as an organization like the Brewers how to win on the margins, how to get clutch hits at bad times. Because as bad as they've been offensively, as bad as they've been with the bullpen defense, they still could have had a better record if they're just better situationally. And they are just the worst. They're the worst. I've never had a team where first and second no outs. You don't feel like the Cubs are rallying until a run is already scored and there's no outs. Because it's just they don't ever deliver, and then they make such high leverage mistakes as a pitching staff, especially relievers. They've neglected that. I think they've neglected the non-human or the human elements of baseball with leadership, accountability, effort, entertainment, and most importantly, situations. And I don't think it's a factor that they don't care, because I think if they didn't care, they'd be better, because they clearly feel the pressure. They're clearly pressing at the plate, but they just don't know how to solve it.
And at some point, you have to be synced up, and that includes Craig Counsell as the manager. And, his words right now, which is what I have to go off of, and, not including the Cubs play, I'm starting to get annoyed. Frustrated would not be the right word, but it is annoying. And on Saturday, coincidentally or not, pregame, okay, so this is before the Steele incident, he said this in regards to player reaction and what it might or might not do. Quote, you want people to be themselves. You're going to be the best version of you if you have the freedom to be yourself. That's important. I will stand by that no matter what. If you have a loud player, you got to let him do that. If you have a quiet player, you got to let him be that, to be his best self out there, to have the most confidence out on the field and in the clubhouse. I think that's critically important. Loud team, quiet team does not dictate team success, close quote. And Craig Counsell is wrong, because anytime anything in sports is quiet only indicates one thing, Sam, and that's what?
Losing.
A quiet team is a losing team. It always has been and always will be.
I think.
And it bothers me that Counsell, who is getting paid what he is, doesn't think that, whether it's quiet in terms of volume, whether it's quiet in terms of stepping up and performing, whether it's quiet in terms of going over to a player and saying something, or whether it's quiet in decision making, which may or may not include pulling a player out of a game for a base running blunder or something else. And I think this is starting to sync up now, where whether he likes it or not, his version of quietness and how that ever links to performance, it does have some connection. And again, quiet does not have to be volume, right. But right now, make no mistake, his quietness, all those examples equals losing. It's part of it.
I think it's part of it for sure. I think the biggest piece of the pie is that they're not very good. You know, the talent level is just underperformed. But I think the next biggest piece of the pie is what we're talking about. And just this lack of like, hey guys, you're supposed to be better than this. Let's go. Because that's kind of allowed them to get this far. Like Dansby Swanson's batting 217. Christopher Morel's batting 198. Okay, that's their problem. But like, you know, what's the message? Like, you know, the message to Morel is like, hey man, walk rate's great, everything's great, process is great. At some point, you got to throw that stuff in the garbage and get the results. And the results are that this team is 7 games under 500. And if it wasn't for the Texas Rangers, maybe they'd be the biggest disappointment in all of baseball.
Well, and Jed Hoyer spoke this weekend as well, which to me was a surprise. We'll explain more why that is next. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. I love sports. I love them so much. I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer games, and the sports aren't sportsing like I want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So you don't have to be a first-time user. You could be somebody who is a daily FanDuel person. You swear by it. You're looking forward to baseball, golf, the Olympics coming up, whatever it is. Head over to FanDuel.com/lockedon and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Jed Hoyer spoke to the assembled media before the game on Friday night at American Family Field. We predicted that Hoyer was going to take questions before this next homestand on Tuesday, but instead the Cubs president of baseball ops decided to host his latest State of the Union on the road, and I was surprised by that. Nonetheless, the main highlight was Hoyer admitting that this season is trending backwards, and due to that, the Cubs could be sellers at the trade deadline. Quote, we have to play well this month. That's leading up to July 30th. I think you have to be a realist when you get to that point, but I don't think that's where we are mentally. You have to make the best decisions for the organization based on the hand you're dealt that year. We'll see what it is. I don't have an explanation for why we hit so well in April. We've had 2 consecutive months of poor performance. We haven't been able to hit. We haven't been able to stretch games out. That's been a huge factor. We're going to have to hit. We're going to have to break out of this slump and play well. There's certainly time to do that, but we need to do that, close quote. Sam?
Yeah, Cubs went on to lose 2 out of 3 in that series, having 2 awful offensive performances out of 3. Was a lot of word vomit from Jed. My theory as to why he did it
yes, please.
was probably probably wanted to do a little on the road, coming off a win against the Giants, and probably figured the Cubs would get swept in Milwaukee. So he wanted to get out in front of it in a better situation before it got worse, maybe. Like I said, the only big thing I got from Jed was,
dang, that's actually crazy.
The only thing
he thought the team that he built was going to get swept by his rival.
Well,
so he spoke to the media 4 days earlier.
Well, I didn't say that was right, but I'm just giving theories. You know, why else?
But it's wild. Like that's bad. Like that's rock bottom type stuff, man.
Well, rock bottom was Monday night in against the Giants at Wrigley. Since then, it's just been it's been laughable. Yeah, the biggest news for me was a positive, was that I didn't even know the Cubs could be sellers. So the fact that people actually are showing interest in these highly overpriced players is great news. I would love to see Cody Bellinger get shipped out, even if we don't get anything back for him. If a team wants to take on that deal, please and thank you. I'll take a bag of Cool Ranch Doritos. If a team wants to. If the team wants to take on Ian Happ, he's hitting well, and they want to give us a little something in return and take on his salary to give us even more flexibility heading into next year, I'll take a bag of the spicy nacho Doritos. Whatever you need to do, let's at least have some flexibility and some fun in the second half. Getting a chance to watch some young guys, getting a chance to to at least maybe we'll be players in the free agent market, because if we can get off Happ's extension or get off this Bellinger option heavy deal, then we'll be way under the luxury tax and can go add some guys that we actually know will be good.
Yeah, well, and the Yankees now in a 12-month span have been connected to Bellinger formally 3 times, which is a lot, right?
Go get him.
Deadline.
Go get your boy.
Trade deadline. So I do think there is some smoke there. The Athletic did report the Yankees have scouted the Cubs heavily the last week or two, and Bellinger being the prime suspect there. So
if anyone else catches your eye, let us know. If you're interested in giving us anything or getting us off the series, you want, Kyle Hendricks at Yankee Stadium, you never know. I don't know. You have any interest in him? Want to take on the rest of the second half of Drew Smiley's second half deal? You want him to be a long-term reliever? You know what we would like back? Just about a handful of Mike and Ikes would be great.
Yeah, well, I think Hendricks, Smiley, Bellinger are the 3 names to start with.
Wow. I can't believe that there are teams lining up for those players.
And then I think
Happ's going to be in play.
Yeah, and he's got to waive his no trade.
Right. It's got to be to a place he wants to go. But I think the Cubs are open to that.
If Neris pitches better, I think a team takes a flyer on him.
Like a flyer to like
because it's not going to cost anything.
You got to remember though, he has an option that a team's not going to want to play into. If he hits a certain amount of appearance, he's got a player option. I don't think a team's going to want to deal with that next year. A $9 million player option.
They're going to be scared of that.
Come on.
Yeah.
Maybe I guess.
He's a rental, so
I think Horner would have a huge market, but the Cubs don't want to trade him for 50 cents on the dollar.
His market's down right now.
Yeah. So you don't want to trade. I think teams would be lining up to get Nico Horner for a playoff run, but the Cubs aren't going to do that. Dansby's not tradable. Seya's not tradable probably unless he would waive his no trade. I don't see that happening, but we could talk about that another time.
Monday is an off day, followed by a 3-game series with the Phillies.
Ooh.
Who have the best. They still have the best record in the National League?
I don't know. A lot of people celebrated after on Friday when it was announced that Schwarber and Harper are going to go to the IL, and it was fun to see. Hey, we're still. It's like, hey guys, they could IL Castellanos, Bohm, Schwarber, Mike Schmidt.
I mean, they still have their lineup is full of stars.
Well, it's not even at that. It's just what have we done to prove that we could beat anybody?
Correct. The Cubs might not even beat the Angels this weekend.
We'll see. It'd be very Cub-like to have like a 4-2, 5-1 homestand to get the hopes back up. Maybe.
All right, we'll be back Monday night. Thank you so much for checking out this edition of Locked On Cubs. You give us 20 to 30 minutes or closer to 35 today. We'll give you all things Cubs with a laugh or two along the way. Be sure to hit subscribe on YouTube, smash the like button for the algorithm, and leave a 5-star review on Apple, Spotify, and everywhere you get your podcast. For Sam Olber, I'm Matt Cozy. This is Locked On Cubs.